Our next guest is going to be Levi Leatherberry, and he is the national chair of the We the People Party, which was originally founded during Kennedy's campaign, but has since, separated, not by, our choice, but, we've been in two separate directions for now, even though we believe in some of those Maha principles. And Levi is the national chair who has taking it upon himself to try to help get everyone organized who is still left over in We the People Party to make a push for a decentralized party that wants to unite the right and the left around an anti-war, anti-corruption message and, encourage a decentralized movement to kind of challenge the establishment, because the more we put our eggs in single baskets, the greater our single point of weaknesses, or the greater our points of weaknesses will be. So it's a decentralized party that prioritizes giving power, to the people and letting the voters actually decide the issues. But I don't want to give too much of a description because Levi can explain it a lot better, than I can. I've just, joined as the Austin chair. So I'm excited to bring him in and, have this conversation. So,
all right. Well, let's welcome to the show, Levi Leatherberry. Welcome, Levi.
Hi. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Jay, for that introduction. He is right. We're trying to bring the left, right together. We will partner with anybody to make change. That's part of what motivated me to get involved in the Kennedy campaign and various other independent campaigns in 2024, which is that we wanted to see substantive change on the ground in all the different counties, state and local and national in these 50 states. But election to election, there's not too much change. Like they often say, doesn't matter who you vote for, at the end of the day, you get John McCain, right? And we want to make sure that we actually give people another choice in their communities where they can see the impact in their lives directly.
Great. So when did you decide, Levi, that you were going to spearhead this movement? What was the clincher for you to take the lead on this?
It was a little bit. I had been working the space for a few years, and it was a bit of a coincidence because when I joined, they needed a few state leaders, so I became one of the state leaders helping set up these parties, and then I ended up being the chair in Oregon for We the People, and I helped set it up in a few other states as well. We actually were quite comprehensive. It's like many states we had We the Peoples, but when they partnered with Trump, they shut a lot of those down, right? They wrapped up a lot of those states, and I knew how precious ballot access was, so I really worked to defend it in the states I was working, and we were able to push through into 2025. And then there's all these teams who had already done all the hard work, who'd already said the things, and I started helping them and showing them how to do party maintenance, how to actually set up all the hard work of it. And I just kind of fell into it, to be honest with you. It wasn't a grand ambition, but it was more just a practical thing. I had experience in it. I'd previously worked for No Labels and for the Ford Party and for other organizations all over the world. And I had already understood the complexities of ballot from Texas to New York to California to Oregon to Hawaii. So it really just became an issue of how do we get action? Like how do we see these MAHA goals on the local level? And quickly, because Oregon was able to, we still kept Kennedy on the ballot, he got enough votes that we were able to get party maintenance. So we're good till 2028. And a couple other third parties collapsed because they didn't get enough votes. So the Constitution Party, some of the other Green parties, they're having issues. And so we started having all these other small third parties come to us because we had ballot access and they didn't. And we're like, will you run our candidates? Will you, if we agree with you on 4 or 5 issues, the top 5 issues, from Portland to Seattle to Texas, will you work with us? And the answer is yes. The answer is hell yes. That's wonderful. That's exactly what we want to do. And that's the only way you actually get change is when the left and right come together on an issue.
So that sounds a little different than what we've heard from other approaches from other third parties that have run into a lot of obstacles, not really wanting to reach out, not wanting to work with other parties. This has seemed very refreshing. I just to hear this. So there's cooperation going on. Doesn't matter if it's right or left. You're coming together to say, how can we, the goal being get as much ballot access as possible. So this is working in Oregon. What other states is this working in right now? Like where are we at right now with this?
Well, we're all over the place. We're setting up in Pennsylvania here shortly. I believe they have the convention here in the next few days, in less than a week, for their leaders. Florida's setting up here shortly. We have Washington, Oregon. We had Hawaii there, North Carolina. There's groups in New Mexico, Texas. Like Jay here, who's kicking butt, and it's awesome. Texas is a very unique beast because every year they wipe out their third parties. So you have to pay $3 to $5 million to collect signatures within a 4 to 6 week window, and it's just so we're building up to the county and local level so that we can still in Austin and Houston and El Paso and Dallas, Fort Worth, we can still represent the majority of the big cities to make sure that we're getting people those choices until we can come together and unify and build a bigger state movement. And that's indicative of just how hard ballot is all over the country. It's very unique state to state. And what we're doing is we're focusing on the states that are easier to get first because we have a long time horizon. We don't have in 6 months, we have to be on the ballot for a presidential race. We don't have to super rush where we have to do all these like really expensive states like Texas or California or New York, which are unique because they have so many electoral votes. They're so important to who the president is. You have to spend all those tens of millions up front. But if you're not doing a presidential race, the requirements are lower and the windows are wider. So we can go to places like Arkansas or Florida or Pennsylvania and make those our priorities and just build up a grassroots movement without requiring millions and millions and millions of dollars and giant donors from day one. We can use it for the people and their passions and for their local action. And it's just a different approach. And if we're able to get to 26 states, should be fairly easy by the midterms, by focusing on the states that are easier. That's more than you need for electoral college for 2028. So that means our candidate will be on free day one. They'll be able to be included into all these metrics and all these things. And,
Wow.
and they'll also have a lower barrier to lawfare because you get sued like crazy if you submit signatures as an independent. But if you just get nominated, that means we can already nominate a presidential candidate or national candidates or local candidates for free. And just in Oregon, there's 30,000 local races. Like we
Wow.
get a list of when we set up a party, we get a list of all the positions in the state, like you can run for that most people never see in their lifetime. And the Democrats and Republicans never talk about it. They don't challenge 90% of races, 87 to 92, it depends on the state, percent of races. The vast majority of races are never challenged. And so by challenging those, we actually can really change the game without even spending one dime. Because for us, it's Zoom calls and organizing in person. But for them, they have to pay for every candidate we run, and the ones that for 120 years they've never touched, which means their donors for Democrats and Republicans now have to cover the spread for more than 5% of races, which means we run 6%, 8%, 10% of these races, these local races nobody focuses on, we can radically change the financial landscape in these states. So that's another reason for third parties to come together and collaborate. The more candidates we get, the higher the bill goes. For the people who are trying to literally buy our democracy, we're going to make them literally pay to try to take these states from us. And we're going to raise the cost 10%, 100%, 1,000% by just running people for those 30,000 races that they've never been challenged.
So, Levi, going back to the other examples of the ones that have, I would say, more than just failed or let us down, it seems like they were making decisions, and I'll name some. I'll name some names. Jill Stein with the Green Party. Like we were just so like frustrated that she wouldn't open up the doors to more people. There was this very, like, you had to check boxes to even get in the door. We were out at the DNC, a lot of protesting against the DNC that obviously we didn't see covered on the mainstream, but we were there seeing that the Democratic Party itself was trying to be held accountable for becoming a right-wing neocon, neo-lib party. And, people wanted to show up and say, let's rally a third party. And it didn't seem like everybody was welcome. You'd show into the door and be like, oh, you have to check this box for LGBTQ plus, you have to check this box. They didn't want to talk about things that maybe frustrated Republicans wanted to come into the room, and they didn't come in. And it made us think, are they even wanting to expand, or are they just existing in this space that's going to be the same old cycle every 4 years and not actually get us anywhere? Did you notice that happening? Are you at the point where we are? We're very skeptical that they're not even trying in these other parties, that the libertarian Chase Oliver wasn't even trying. It seems like more of a distraction. Are you seeing that as like almost intentional like we do? And if so, how are you going to distinguish yourself like vocally and say, hey, we're actually trying to get to a destination that isn't just distracting people from a real third party movement?
Yeah, so I've been frustrated by that as well personally. I ran as a candidate just to get the experience. I wanted to know what it was like to actually be in these parties. And I got a lot of pressure from in these parties. I did organized fusion voting, so you can run for multiple parties, right, under the same name. So I did independent and libertarian. That was very interesting. And you get to see the dynamics as a candidate. You get to see the dynamics. I also set up a bunch of electoral colleges in like 30 plus states, and I actually did the parties. I wrote the bylaws and stuff for a lot of different parties. And behind the scenes, there's an incentive structure. It's all very centralized. So what people don't know in America is that primaries don't technically exist, right? They can be hand selected. The Supreme Court ruled after, when Bernie Sanders, like you're kind of referring to, when Bernie Sanders got more votes, so then they picked Hillary. That went to the Supreme Court, or not this. There was a state Supreme Court that ruled on that too. Anyways, basically it's legal because they're companies, right? So parties are companies. They can hand select leaders from school board to, your water board, to your utility board, state senator, governor, everything. And it's usually 3 to 5 people at the state level. And to get quorum in a state, you can legally usually bribe 3 to 5 people. So like 3 people and you get the whole state, and you can handpick everybody. So it's really hard to have a coalition where you have dissenting voices and different opinions when you have 3 people for year after year after year who aren't even elected, because once they're in, they can change the bylaws so it's for life, which we sometimes take advantage of that for anti-corruption reasons. But the answer is to get power into the hands of the people. So instead of 3 people to 5 people picking everybody, what we do is in our bylaws, we take, I was one of the first to this, we take our the powers as chair and we delegate it down to the members. So the members pick the candidates, the issues, and even when the majority of the money goes, every 6 months or every year, that allows them to actually have the power to pick a diverse selection of leaders. And it's very hard to bribe 1,000 people voting on a mayoral candidate than 2 or 3, right, to get quorum. So that you're the 3 of the 5, so then you have majority vote. So basically, by allowing our members to vote, we also take advantage of federal laws which protect people from in elections spending money to change a vote. Like if you try to spend dollars to change that vote, it's illegal. But if you give it to the leaders, it's legal. So you just bribe 3 people, that's legal, and you control everything. So it's so much easier when things are centralized. So the libertarians, the Greens, all these people you've talked to before have a long history getting sued for collaborating with the 2 major parties. And if you look at their list of candidates, and this is true for working all of them, they'll almost always be all the incumbents. So it'd be John Smith against John Smith, Sarah against Sarah. Like the person running against them in the third party is the incumbent for the last 30 years. So like they give the illusion of like alternative choices, or this is more independent. They like rebrand the major 2-party candidates, and and they get paid for that, right? And so they give a donation, and then a sufficient donation, and then the 3 people pick them. And so it's all pretty much rigged in a lot of ways. So that's why a lot of people are frustrated, because the people on the ground are great. Like they're working hard, they're knocking doors, they're passionate, they care about the issues, they're doing everything right, but then they're getting sold out by like 2 people they can't see and they never met. So you can't make change and then be so top down. You have to be bottom up, and that's why we never see the changes. The bylaws and these parties do not reflect their principles. So they're very. If you speak to many libertarian candidates, for example, the Libertarian Party often in experience is not very libertarian, right? Because if you're not one of those two or three people, you can't affect the issues or who people are. You have like no power. So it incentivizes factions. Because if you get a no, the only way for you to get a yes is to get that guy out. So you have to all organize to try to coup each other. So third parties are filled with people just cooing each other nonstop. Because if they're not those two or three people, they really don't have any say effectually. And so that's why also decentralizing discourages factions fighting. Like you'd have like a chase or like different, like these are these different strong different factions because the people at the top are not doing the picking. So if you get a new person in, it doesn't affect who the candidates are because the members are picking them, right? So it doesn't, there's no like benefit to cooing people. So I feel like that's another way, that's the second way where we could minimize these issues.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then it makes this a little slightly more honest of a process when you talk about the primary process, which you're right. Most people have no idea. These are just businesses that get to do whatever they want. And that's why the Democratic Party, nobody went to jail for just stealing it from Bernie in 2016. It was, we're allowed to do that. We can do whatever we want. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what that process does is it encourages consensus building, right? Like in the community, because you have to talk to people in your community and in the party about the issues that are most important to you. And if you can inspire enough people to care about those issues and think about those issues the way you want them to, then they will list those issues as their core issues, because whatever candidates we get have to sign a pledge to fight for at least 3 of the top 5 issues that the party wants to get accomplished. So you have a party now that is literally giving the power to its members. So it's such an important distinction that also helps people understand the way government works, because now you have to think about, well, what different issues can each level of government affect? Because I have to have my issues for the city level, I have to have my issues for the state level, for the national, federal level, whatever it is. So it's a really good process that encourages literally a brand new way to approach politics, and that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about it. And we haven't even gotten to the the anti-corruption part too. So if I could actually follow up on that, Levi, can you explain a little bit more about how candidates who win like for or win seats are going to change the game and are going to encourage another level of transparency that citizens aren't used to right now? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing to focus on, because I don't think Americans is as much as we have great instincts as voters that we know when things don't mesh with our values. We know when people are going the opposite of what they promised on the campaign trail. Like people are experiencing right now with the Trump administration, that where they're like, this is not what I voted for, or and they feel like no matter who they vote for, it's for war, or it's for more expensive housing, or pharmaceuticals cost more, medicine doesn't, the prices don't go down, even though we keep voting for people who promise the prices go down. And people are like, so why does this keep happening? They feel like it's just lobbyists in DC, but it's actually the party itself, right? So if you're like a good libertarian or green as a third party, or a Republican or a Democrat who actually makes change, right? Like say, for example, you focus on big pharma or like lowering drug costs. If you actually start to make progress towards that, well, guess who loses money? The pharmaceutical lobbyists, who then put pressure on your party through their donations, and then their party goes, that guy's costing us tons of money, and then they take you out of the primary, right? So they pull you out of the primary. So if you try to solve any problem on any category, you end up running against the money. You cost them money. You cost your party money. If you fix affordable housing, you cost all the developers who are the donors to your party. If you do pharmaceuticals, you do that. If you do war, then you cost the defense contractors, who then you get a call and then they pressure you out of the party. And if you say no, they redistrict you. This happened to somebody I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, or but last year they were a Democrat. They said no to how they thought something was unethical, and they redrew the district to make it Republican, just to punish this guy. Like the Democrats were in control of that, that redesign process, and they hurt their own party just to get back at this guy for trying to do the right thing. And so anti-corruption is core to actually making change. So it's not the most important issue in America. There's a lot of really important issues. It's the first issue you have to solve if you want to get results. So it doesn't matter what you care about or are passionate about. You have to care about anti-corruption because that's the primary issue. Because the regulators, the Democrats and Republicans, for the last 120 plus years, they are the ones who got a piece of the action for every field. Like when they were building roads, when they were building cars, they got a piece. When they were building infrastructure, hospitals, they got a piece. They're older than cars. Like the parties are older than automobiles. So like they of course got a piece of every level, from the oil fields all the way down to the local factory. They get a piece. And so you can actually reverse that in local and state elections by running candidates who agree to the top five. You know, we're like, what are the 5 issues you guys care about? Okay, I'll do at least 3 of those. And then the second thing I'll do is I'll make sure I take that money and from whatever agency or organization or government organization and invest in the state. So California invests in California, Texas invests in Texas, and we don't get these multinational contractors who've been getting VIGs to build the road. So like in rural Oregon, it costs 8 times more money to build a road than in downtown Paris, who have the biggest unions in the world. So the country and the biggest city in their country and with the strongest unions are cheaper, much, much cheaper and faster at building roads than we are, because the graft is so insane. The corruption is so insane on every level. Everything we try to do, we're paying 8 times more. So we could build 8 times more road and get 8 times more jobs to local and state companies to build these roads, to fix these schools, to build the infrastructure, to invest in this country instead of these foreign wars, to literally invest in these countries without even raising $1 in tax revenue. So you can spend the same taxes and get 8-10 times more into your community by investing local and not to DC contractors. Not all our money goes out of state. Kind of like you know how with charities they talk about, and I used to work in international development, so I know, but I was doing anti-corruption there too. But you know how like when they give money to a cause, like 80% goes into admin fees, and then like 20% actually touches the issue? That's what we do in America. That's what we do on every issue in America.
Yeah.
We take the 80% VIG, and then we get 20% to the field. We're wondering why these contracts take so long to build everything. Like, wow, they've been working on that road for 5 years. And like, why is everything going over contract? Because they're not spending the money on the issue.
Yeah,
And so so our candidates, they agree to represent. It doesn't matter if you're left or right or whatever. You're going to represent what people want in your city or your district. You're going to put the money on those issues. And then the third thing is, to the extent is possible, you're going to show the budget. So that means we can see that you did number 1, number 2, that you invest in what people care about and you put the money on what people care about. And if we even get one candidate in a water board or utility district or a school board or this mechanism then allows us to see the whole system, because they publish the maximum extent of the budget. So we can see where all the money's missing, where all the people are going to the fullest extent possible. And most of these problems, we don't know how bad it is because we only see the tip of the iceberg. These guys, with this commitment,
basically, I think we
sorry, I got to call that. But basically, the way you make that change is by imposing like a Citizens United reform within the party, because we can't change it nationally. You need the Supreme Court to do that. But we can impose all those ethical things on ourselves, so that when somebody goes to the ballot box, they go, we have a candidate who's fighting these problems, who's fighting this corruption, who's committed to not having a lobbyist pick every issue for them, and actually will deliver the money to our communities. So it'd be a fountain of wealth that no politician has done before, because all of them, despite their issues, the money goes to the same people who build the roads every year. It's you know how we talk about the deep state in DC? it's state and local too. We have the same guy building the roads for 100 years, the same family, the same one doing it, in California, the same guy in Texas who builds all the roads. It's just one billionaire who gets all the contracts instead of like 100 local companies. And so that's how you make change. You have to change the money if you want to change the game.
Yeah, and really quick, just to add on that, once we publish the budgets, we'll be able to see or at least get a better idea about how that corruption actually works. Because, if we see that 85% of the money dedicated to a government contract is going towards admin fees, you can bet that a chunk of that 85% is going back to those three politicians who picked the candidate.
So this sounds pretty not just important, but you've worked this out to a point where people will be drawn into the party because they know that they can represent, having their name on the ballot as the people's party. We the people party will correlate with, we are for transparency, we are for the money going to the actual thing, and that should be contagious. That should pick up some momentum. On paper, that looks great. One thing came in my head when you guys were both talking about this is I was thinking about the promises we heard recently from Elon before he went off. I actually want to ask you about the American Party, which he just started apparently. But before that, this whole thing with Doge, we're going to get transparency. We're going to see where all the money's going. It's going to go back to people. Obviously very discouraging to see all the talk but no action, because we know, and I don't think we were holding our breath on it, but I know a lot of people were. They voted for that. They go, wow, Elon has this plan of total transparency. That's what Doge was supposed to be. And people were even talking about money back in our pockets. That's what people were sharing, all this stuff. We were seeing this, how many per family? What are we going to get? Because all this wasted money, we're going to see everything. No, we didn't see anything. All we saw was taking it here, moving it over somewhere else. So how can we assure people who've already been kind of missiled with that and feeling like they're probably more skeptical than ever if someone else comes along and says, hey, we got a plan to be 100% transparent on where the money's actually going, and they go, oh yeah, we saw that before, we're not buying it. What do you say to those people who are looking to have something like this?
Yeah, well, it's hard to make change when you're paid by the king, right? So when all your money comes from the person you're trying to make change, it's hard to do that. Like the Department of Defense, for example, if they'd crossed the Potomac and actually made cuts to DoD instantly overnight, first of all, the American Party would do phenomenally well if that was the case, right? Because then there'd be recent example of them walking the talk. And right, but it's the opposite. Anybody in DC, the second they realized he was not going to touch the DoD, and then they would use continuing resolutions to refund everything they were cutting. So like this is obvious, like 4 weeks into people following it, that they were just refunding. They were making a list of all their cuts, and then they just repaid them all on the back end when people weren't looking. And that's like a very standard procedure in politics. Is you make like a proposal, we'll make this big change, and then you pull the bill on the back end, like after the news articles went out. It's a very old tactic. I would say that putting our faith into billionaires that are benevolent to make change in the country is just not a great strategy long term, because they're spread out. They have like a lot. They have industries all over with their hands in it. So all they have to do is tweak a little bit over on the EVs, and that affects your policies over here. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too easy to leverage their extended financial networks when it's in the citizens' hands and it's decentralized. It's not us making that decision. They're selecting the people, and then if they don't do what they say, the people vote them out. So we have a removal mechanism that is not available to Democrats or Republicans.
Oh, wow.
They can get in trouble for violating their promises. Like there's no mechanism. It's the donor who's happy that he betrayed his promises,
right?
Who controls whether he gets to run.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure if the person getting screwed is the one who's in charge of firing you, you're more likely to get fired. And then on a scale, when you scale that out, you have an automatic removal process where if they don't do 3 out of the 5 things, that's why we keep saying that, the top 5 issues in their community, if they don't actually start delivering on that in the 2 to 4 year term they have, they're automatically not renewed. They can't run again. So like it automatically out selects, because the big issue we have is quality, right? Like how do you get people who are actually going to walk the talk? Well, you can't know what's in somebody's heart. You can't. What you can do is give everybody a fair shot and then kick out the ones who don't. That's how you solve this problem long
Right.
term. You don't try to get a better mechanism because they're all good talkers. Like by the nature of the role, they're good talkers. So you're trying to convince people who are good at convincing the public and you to believe in them. We don't need to believe in you. We need to see the actions, and
Yep.
then we'll renew it or not. Everybody gets one shot. Like these in America, there's been people I thought would be horrible because of their track record or whatever, their system of incentives. They were just responding to the swampiness of their party. But then when you actually give them a chance to do something right, they actually show up for it. And they actually do fight battles. You'll be in the trenches, and the person you thought would never have your back has your back the most. So it's like you just give people a fair shot, and then you go from there. And so I don't believe like, and you have this issue when you're trying to hire for a company, right? Like, how do you get a perfect employee, like for whatever job you have? You you would be the richest person on the planet if you could figure that out, right? If you could figure it out where you could reliably get great people for every role, then we wouldn't need all these HR firms. We wouldn't need all these, you know, all these human resources because that's all to deconflict from having that core issue. So no, we don't have a solution to get all the best people, but we can give them all the best shot and we can make it cheaper and easier to run so they don't have to take giant donations to donors. And the great thing also about being decentralized is if they try to bribe us, like the leadership, right? Like they usually target just the leaders and then they convert the state, rather than going to every race, they just convert the party. Our people aren't connected to that. So even if they try bribing our leaders, it has no effect on who the candidates are. So they're just giving us free money. I'm like, okay, well, thanks. But now we're going to use that to run people against you. But like, it's not, what I'm saying? Like, they're not, if you separate the party admin from like just getting ballot from the actual political voting structure, that's how you get better candidates because the person hiring, the person firing are different. Like you can't have them be the same person. And that's the issue we're having with Elon is that it's all centralized in the America Party. I don't think that, just really quick on that, I don't think that they, as a donor, would see those core issues. I don't think centralization is a problem he thinks of. If you look at every issue, he never talks about decentralizing down to the people. He'll use the rhetoric of like the Constitution or something like founding fathers who were against kings or against these centralization of power and checks and balances and individual liberty being protected by a delegation of authority, not by centralization of it. That's not even in their universe. No donor talks about that. So like it's not even on the plate for like his whole political life. So it's not even an issue he would ever care about. So the party's very unlikely to have any of the solutions we've been talking about built into the party. So probably just like the Republicans and the Democrats, it'll be all top down. There'll be like 5 people who are, been with him with a bunch of companies. And good luck trying to get a candidate who says no to Elon in that party or to any issue, right?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a party, we're talking about a fan club. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of billionaire fan clubs before. And the second those candidates disagree with the boss, which is essential to a democracy and a functioning competitive candidate team, if you're getting a bunch of people who are going to really challenge the system, they say no to you all the time. It's believe me, these people do not they're not pushovers. They fight. They're fighters. They'll fight you too, like when they're going to get out the door. And if you don't let them give you pushback and on the ideas and on the issues, like you're never going to have good people. So I don't see how they're going to change the quality of candidates or the money structures because you can still bribe their leaders in every 50 state. You're not going to be able to change their selection process of centralization. So basically, I don't see how the party would be different. I know the candidates could be different, but if the party dynamics don't change, you're going to just recreate the wheel and you'll have a different logo, but the same outcomes. Like that's what I would guess.
Yeah, it's the power mechanisms. The structure of the We the People Party literally puts the power in the hands of the people because the voters decide the issues, the voters decide the candidates. It's not top heavy, it's bottom up. So I would say it's all in the mechanisms.
So checking all these boxes, gentlemen, I mean, these are all great. Getting the corruption out, doing there's total transparency. There's a system in place for accountability. If you F up, you're out of here. Aligning with other candidates who maybe just check a few of these boxes. We have 5 issues, check 3 of them. You can be, your doors are open for people all over the place that feel like they can align with you guys. So all these boxes are being checked. I love all this. I want to bring up one issue that has not come up yet, and this is an important one. It's the pushback, because we know that one of the biggest challenges of running campaigns in third party land is fighting the mainstream media. They are the worst, the most vicious, the most condescending, the most manipulative when it comes to stopping any third party. And this goes with any other third party who doesn't check boxes that you're checking, but they also have the same problem. So they all have this problem. And we saw it firsthand when we were coming out of this election, of the 2024 election. And it was so saddening to see the ending results of who actually turned out to vote any third party at all. You had this Kamala versus Trump situation where so many people were just done with the 2-party system. And yet these were the results we saw on election day. This is, if you guys, so people don't know how bad it was. Look at Jill Stein, the number 3 selection, the top leading third party candidate gets 0.4%. And of course, Robert Kennedy couldn't get his name off of enough places, and that was by design. They wanted him on as many as possible to screw that up. Chase Oliver couldn't even beat a candidate who bowed out and went and joined Trump. He couldn't even do that. So here we are, as discouraged as ever. And now, and I'm gonna play this clip, and I want you guys to respond to this. This is Elon's party, who we are very skeptical of. He just started it, the American Party, and apparently he's already at 4%, a full 3.6 more than Jill Stein did in her entire run, as far as opinion goes, popular or voters' choice. And listen to the smear campaign they're doing on him right out of the gate, where we would be going, wow, 4% is very good for someone who just started. But just this smear campaign is waiting for anybody who is building up steam. Check this out.
This entire thing makes very little sense to me. It makes about as much sense as selling sand in the desert. What are we talking about here? What is the size of Elon Musk's base? Well, I calculate it to be about 4%, just 4%, 1, 2, 3, 4% of all voters. What is that base made up of? Well, it's those who view Elon Musk favorably and the GOP unfavorably. We're talking just about 4% of all voters out there, because it turns out most of the people who like Elon Musk already like the GOP already. That is, they already have a party for him. In my mind, there is just no base for Elon Musk's third party in the electorate, at least initially speaking.
All right. When we talk about third party.
So that smear is ready to go when we would know, hey, that's actually a good number to have off the bat. But so this is the kind of battles that are awaiting we the people party. I mean, you're anticipating this is going to be a problem for anybody who gets that type of momentum. So I assume this is waiting for you as well. What did you think, Levi?
Yeah, no, we're counting on that. So that'll actually advantage us. I would like to see how they got that 4%, because there's no election going, and that's the presidential poll, I'm assuming, right? It's a national poll. So I'm wondering how he would calculate that without talking to anybody. By the way, independents and third parties do much better at state and local,
Sure.
right, than they do at a national, because people make a Faustian bargain where they're like, oh, this devil's better than that devil, and they're much more consolidated on a national scale. When it comes to state and local, there's much more differentiation, and the percentages are higher. For example, our party did much better than that at the state level, and that's why we got renewed already to 2028, is because Kennedy doubled the libertarian vote. So anywhere we've been on the ballot, we've got double the other third parties already in 2024. But what I'd say to that is that at the presidential level, that's right. It's really hard to build up momentum. That's why third parties don't ever do that. It's because you have to build year to year. You have to get small and then get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And actually grow. That's how it works all around the world. That's how third parties, that's how the Republican Party back in the day, that's how they did it. You just focus on popular local issues and then you build out your states and then you go national with your candidates. What a lot of these guys do is they go top down. They go, okay, we're going to get like 2 senators and 3 or 4 people from House. And that's great, but it doesn't really change anything because a lot of those votes in the House or the Senate, the way it actually works is that they'll get a like a Murkowski or whatever to flip depending on the issue. So if they don't have enough votes, they can just flip 4 more corporate Democrats or corporate Republicans to get the bill passed. So even if you get 4 more people in, it has no effectual impact on the legislation because they could just flip. They have more than 50 people on both sides in the House who will flip on a dime. They can just give them a call and they'll flip on any issue. So you'd have to get 50 people in to even effectuate any policy in the state or House. And so by focusing on local issues, remember I said like 90% or so of these races they don't cover, they don't spend money on, it's free.
Right.
They literally just put a name on the ballot and they get the job. Well, a lot of those are paid positions. So they're like 100K, 200, 300K jobs, and then tens of thousands all around America. How many Americans run against a job where there's one other candidate and it's that much money, right? And so what we're doing is by focusing on those hidden races and the forgotten parts of America, real America, when the media criticizes us or runs these polls, that's now coverage of a race that are uncovered, right? That means the costs increase in this race. That means every time we get negative coverage or the mainstream media bashing us, it raises the bill for the 2 major parties who are in those races, right? Because now they have to actually run counter messaging in social media. Then they have to counter these, our candidates are now getting covered, and now they have to pay more and more for every race. So the bill goes up exponentially. So the more they fight us, the more they have to pay, and the more they have to pay, the more we drain their coffers for the other candidates they can't afford to pay for. So we want them to draw out like death by 1,000 cuts. So like we just run people. It doesn't cost us anything. Costs them more money. The more they cover us and denigrate us, the more they have to pay for the races. The more they have to pay for the races, the less they have to expose people down ballot who don't have money. And try getting a uni-party candidate with DC talking points to win amongst a local race with no money. These guys have negative charisma. The only way people vote for them is if they have money and they can like spend, outspend everybody. If they have no money and they have to do on the merit of their ideas, good luck. I'll take that bet any day that those guys will have a hard time. We focus local.
Yeah, and not to mention any coverage of the party is also at least any coverage that goes less than the first surface level is going to have to cover how our candidate selection method, is a little bit different from what the current parties are pushing. So I think even in this case, negative coverage is actually good because we're exposing people to literally a brand new idea right now, because we're literally showing the American people there are other power structures within the party system that we can explore. And if we have a result where, you have large groups of different demographics who are supposed to be in entirely different parties also joining, like because of the fact that you can control your own local issues, you could have like a rich suburban neighborhood, vote for the party because they're going to say lower property taxes in that neighborhood. And then you could also have people in maybe the inner city, like in that party because they want to raise the minimum wage in that part of the city. So you could wind up with a scenario where you have completely different sets of people, like like who would normally be in entirely different political parties all joining and moving towards this. And the thing that unites everybody is anti-war and anti-corruption. And if we get even one person in and we add this next level of transparency with the budget, so now people can see how the contractors are spending the money that's given to them, you're giving people something new. And we all know once you give people something new, it's hard to take that away. And we raise the expectations of what we're going to expect from our other elected representatives. So that's why I truly believe it's a game changer.
Well, yeah, I can absolutely see that here, gentlemen. I'm seeing the timing of this right now is just, it's so essential because we're seeing so many people right now for the first time in their lives throwing their hands up in the air and saying, I'm done with this two-party system. I'm done being lied to. I'm done with the media's games, pitting us together like a sports game. This is not a game. These are people's lives. And we see the capture Israel has on both parties. We see, you know, in the media being complicit in that. And then we see like the fact that they've been lying to us about how the political process works at all in the first place, that we actually do get a choice. And you can run your political party like a business and not go to jail for hand selecting your puppet. But there's another way to do it that's better for the people. So this would be the time, I think, right now more than ever. You're going to get people's attention right now. You got my attention. I want to know how people can get involved right now. And I'm in California, and I want to, like, I'm sick of being no party affiliation, and I'd like to figure out how can I sign up right now and have a third party to believe in right now. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, you can reach out to us at our website. We have a national website up, and you can also see what states we're in. There's a ballot access map on there as well. It just WTPnational.com. Yeah, exactly. That's our website. And you can send an email. You can click the Let's Chat and just chat and send a message. You can also send an email to team@WTPnational.com. And that way we can set you up with your state and local leadership. And
Right.
yeah, and I wanted to touch base on what Jay said there a little bit ago, which is that we can run different candidates. So like in Oregon, we have Portland, right? So these are some of the most liberal cities in the world. Nobody's actually effectuating change. Like if you look at Lahaina, like in Hawaii, right? What are the Democrats doing to actually get good leadership and fix the problem, right? And actually help the people who are still desperately in need of help. East Palestine, right? North Carolina. These are places we're focusing on because the two-party will never fix it. They're not going to run candidates there. They're one-party states. There's no incentive for the party level for them to put new people in, a new blood in. But we can actually get in there and actually put the money into those communities to fix them, right? That's our whole thing, right? We get in, we put the money locally. And so we actually are more competitive in these states, or like a Portland or Seattle or San Francisco, these cities that have been one party rule for a century, and Republicans are never going to make real headway there because people ideologically, because politically, there's political identities. People are not going to flip completely the other way. There's a huge social cost to doing that. But if they go independent, that's okay, right? And if they understand that we're a party that allows for local leadership, we can have like a more left-leaning person in Portland who's still way to the right of their candidates, but like, you know, it's still left-leaning. But then in the rural parts, it's like very Trumpy. Like those policies of like more Second Amendment rights and more local constitutional rule and better budgeting and not being wasteful, that works like there. And that the more moderate reform works there. So it allows us to have a wide, like an organic strategy to solving problems in these communities. We don't come in with like a list that comes down from DC, from national, for that we have for Texas, California, and Portland. And then we try to impose Texas things on Portland, you know what I'm saying? Or California things on Portland. We say, no, what do you want? And then we do it. Like we don't have to have this huge debate, ideological debate. What do you want? And we deliver. That's what a politician's supposed to do. We're used to this inverse relationship where we get our morality apparently from our politicians, where we're like, what do you want? How can I serve you, master? Instead of them serving us, they're public servants. They're supposed to ask what we want and then deliver. When's the last time a Democrat or Republican asked you what you wanted and then did it? Like, can you tell me 5 things that your politician, they spend billions of dollars, what is the last thing they did for you? Like your local leadership? Like, does that come to mind for you?
No.
Delivered?
I mean, especially here in California, you mentioned, I mean, this has been a blue state dominating state for so long. We have the worst homelessness in the country. We have, I mean, the crime rate is insane. Everything about this state is screwed ever since the COVID policies were absolutely atrocious. So many people lost their small business and children got screwed up at schools. I mean, the list is so long over these last several years. But I think the homelessness is the biggest problem. Nobody's doing anything. They don't come through. They run on it, and then they don't do it. And there's still people who are blaming Republicans in our state right now. They're still saying it's the Republicans' fault that the Democrats haven't done anything. And I think at some point that narrative has to end. They have to see that that's not the case. That, like you're saying, Levi, both parties are guilty of the exact same thing, which is not ever listen to what the people want. They actually take the money that's supposed to be for the thing, and they go and they funnel it into something else, as we saw our Governor Gavin Newsom do with the homeless money. The money's gone. Millions and millions of dollars gone that was supposed to go to homelessness. Gone. And no apologies. And again, there's still people here blaming that on Republicans. It's just totally insane. But I do think we're at a turning point where people are starting to notice that the entire system is scammed. And I can't actually answer your question, Levi. I don't think that we live in a world where politicians have ever done this. And I think that if there's a party ready to do that for us, there's people ready to sign up for that right now, because we've never had it.
Yeah, 100%. And the homelessness issue is a beautiful issue to focus on, because it shows failure at every level, right? From local to state to, like, there's nobody doing a good job, right?
Yeah.
On that. And I used to work in international development. My original passion was just trying to help people who needed it most. So I grew up in, third world countries and developing countries, as they call them now. And there'd be generational poverty, like where these people, the government has failed them for as long as time immemorial, right? They don't even remember when it worked, right? And so it'd be the most hopeless situations. I'd be working in countries that would aspire to be like Pakistan or Afghanistan. Like that was their aspiration, is to be as stable as those countries. And so there's at the bottom of the barrel. And I'd be working with those governments. And I like to say I was preparing for my time with DC in American politics because I was working at the worst of the worst of those guys. But you find hope in these situations, in the darkest parts of the world, in the forgotten parts of America, because there's like a human instinct for fairness. Like we will see, like if you give, like even to our closest primates, if you give chimpanzees, and you have a test, and you give one, I think it's bananas, and then you give the other one like celery or something, or some vegetable, they go crazy. And it's for the same test. We have that instinct too. Even if we've never in our lifetime for 12 generations seen fairness, we still want it. We still get angry when we see something getting screwed or us getting screwed. And so that instinct is in all people, in all classes, in all groups. In America, they want things to work. They get very pissed. Like even if, like for you, I don't know if you can remember a time when California was functioning well, right? But you still want it. Like you still desire it. It still pisses you off because you have that instinct for fairness and not getting screwed, because it doesn't benefit our survival. These systems, them being this broken, it actually hurts our survival. And so we know that on some like core level. And so there's a natural instinct towards these things. So it's not towards third parties, but it's towards anybody fighting where people are getting screwed over. And if you actually deliver and you show them that you're on a local level in the world, they can see like their utility bills going down, them getting money back for medical procedures. Like these are all state funded things. And like they actually see their life changing in some material way. You cannot pay for that kind of media and attention and word of mouth. Like that's why genuine politics, you don't really have to worry about promoting yourself. You just do the work, and then people see you're the real thing, and then that spreads organically. You don't need to put. The reason they spend billions of dollars is because they're all lying to us, and they're all going to do the opposite of what they say. So they're paying to trick us into believing with them. You don't have to pay to trick people if you're not tricking them. And so like you don't actually need giant media budgets. This whole assumption that we'll go, oh, this guy, fundraising is like their key thing for electability, which is the worst metric possible if you want results. Because then you're selecting for the people who lie to you the most. So you're like, I'm going to select for the person who's compensating for the fact that they know they're going to lose voters because they're going to do something unpopular. Like that's the whole reason they're fundraising. If they were doing something popular, they wouldn't need the funds. So like, people actually used to vote without being paid billions of dollars. I don't know if we remember that time, but There was a time when people expected to win without spending 10 times the salary of the position. So like, who pays you to work? Like, what dynamic is that? Who goes, oh, this is a 120K salary position, I'm going to spend $5 million on it? Like, who? That's, first of all, they don't know how to budget. If that's their approach to a problem, that they spend more than their salary to get the salary. That's not a guy who should be towards my money at all. Like that's a person who's proven they're a bad leader before they even get elected. And so yeah, like, we need people for normal Americans to be able to get elected for free or for cheap. That's how you make change. Until we have that in our state and local positions, we won't see change, because you'll only get the person who agreed to giant funds and they owe like 5,000 favors to everybody who's making the problems. So yeah, I think you're well aware of this, and I'd love to see change in California, in San Francisco, in Portland, in Seattle. These are areas we can target. That the Republicans are not competitive. The American Party is not competitive. Like, right, and so like, that's areas where our diversity of candidates allows us to play in fields that are not competitive. So not only are we focused on races where people aren't running, we can also run in races that are too partisan for there to be competition. So
And
that's our hope.
yeah, and the structure of the party actually brings people together. Like, because the voters are selecting the issues, it really highlights for people how Greens and Libertarians do actually have some things in common. They both want an end to wars, and they both don't like corrupt government. So, with a party that's actually letting the people have the power, that in itself is actually a unifying message to bring in people from all sides. So again, just think about how it can change the political conversation. And while the America Party claims to be centrist, because if you look at its branding, that's one thing they're saying, it's really just Elon Musk picking the best of what he wants from both sides of the aisle, that he's trying to convince you that's the quote unquote centrist position. But when you're actually starting on unified ground, that is the definition of centrism, if you ask me, because you're starting where both sides agree.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say to that is, we're so much pro unity, we'll work with the American Party. If they have a good idea or a good issue, we'll support it. Like, it's not about ego. It's not about putting one thing above the other. If you're in a relationship with anybody, and like, whether it's a political party or a candidate or any political issue, the people who are willing to show up for you and to help you, those are the ones long term who get the power and walk the talk. And so yeah, if they have a great issue, we'll support it. It's just, until then, I'm not expecting a giant flurry of amazing positions on all these issues, because I know where he stands on surveillance and Palantir, considering what the Doge did and implementing like pretty much the biggest violation of liberty rights in our lifetime. I know that he's directly involved with the HHS crackdown on Harvard and universities, trying to use their corporate status to leverage the stock market by putting people into those positions. I know that to get artificially look like their policies are good when they're not, by investing these funds that are the biggest on the market. I know what it is with war and his role with the different wars. I'm saying, so if you're pro, like, what that actual voter base is very small. Like the anti-Trumpers who are pro-war, who are pro-big pharma, who are pro-big ag, who are pro pretty much every establishment position on every category. Like, but they also want to fight the system. So they love the system, but then they also want to fight the system, but they're also funded by the system. Like, okay, they're going to make change, guys. Don't worry. Like, we're only getting money from the guy we're fighting. How could this go wrong?
Yeah.
Like, and so like this, yeah. But there's going to be good people who want to help them, who just don't know. They don't check anything or because it takes a lot of time. Like, this takes a lot of effort to go and research these things. So there's going to be good people who are just being pragmatic, who want to work with them. And so that's why we want to work with them, for all those pragmatic individuals who have good intentions. That it would be amazing to work with them and to try to get any results. Because, having a rich guy bring up a few issues, if there's a good one, it doesn't hurt, right? it doesn't hurt to try to work with anybody. I mean, we're trying to work with the Dems and the Republicans. I mean, they're going to sue us like crazy in every state, and we're still going to try to work with them while they're like actively attacking us.
Yeah.
Like in the last 2024, you know, they came at us hard. Like they, you know, they were taking us to court all over the place, state by state. So, and we still try to work with them. So, I mean, if you send a lawyer to us and we're still talking to you about a project, that's a pretty good sign that we have good intentions. So, I don't know about you, but usually people don't want to talk when they're getting sued in, you know, 30 states. But yeah. But no, it's there's a lot of good people, and let's see what we can do. You know, these next few years are vital, as you said. The timing is everything. You know, there's what is that quote? I'll misquote it, but you know, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come, something like that.
Yeah, that's the one.
And I do believe that we can make change, and even if we don't get a single dollar in donation and a single media coverage, we can still get most of these local positions because they take between 20 and 100 votes on average. So I'm pretty sure we can get 20. I just got elected in Oregon because I was giving one of my examples is to get involved in water boards and utility boards. Unbeknownst to me, they put my name down in a write-in campaign. I got the position, and I didn't even know I was running. So like, there's a lot of positions that are very winnable. Like you can win without like anybody even telling you. Like, and so like that's what I'm trying. My point is that like these are paid positions. Some are not paid, but they control $1 to $1 billion budgets. The water board, I think in LA, is $2 billion. So you're getting people on these boards with no oversight with $2 billion, you know, and you run them for other local positions, and you get on a Zoom call, and now you control hundreds of millions of dollars, and you only took you 20 to 100 votes. And so like by getting to what people don't realize is we're in a federalized system, so there's more money at the state and local level. Like the local governments spend more money on websites than Silicon Valley combined. So all those big names you hear about are nothing compared to like library websites in terms of revenue, in terms of spending, in terms of the power. So like you think about how many cities there are. They all need library websites, right? And they get matched at federal. So like the amount of money is mind-blowing. And over 90% of those projects, I believe last time I checked, aren't finished. So they spend more than Silicon Valley, and they don't even finish the websites. Like they're like, you go to it and the link doesn't work. So like the level of fraud is like at the highest level in human history, technically speaking. And so if we can make even a small dent at these local elections, it'll make a huge impact in the pockets. And I think the pockets is how you change things. And
really quick, by publishing the budget, you know, like Levi had mentioned earlier, like we really show people like why their money is being wasted. Because, you know, like Levi said, if all these websites are unfinished and you go back and you look at the budget and you find out that 90% of it went to administration fees. Obviously, I'm exaggerating for the example, but this is why like it didn't get finished. So like adding that level of transparency, even though it's like somewhat of a minor point in all the grand issues we're talking about, is actually a key way we can change how people even look at and pay attention to politics now, because now it's not a mystery. Like you can point to it, like why was so much of this, you know, project invested in administration costs, but not like the actual labor costs for the people who would build a website? Like, was it just some shell company that got set up and you guys weren't taking the project seriously? And so like, once you introduce it, I feel like word of mouth is going to destroy any mainstream media propaganda that you know they could try to push against the party, as long as you know we get results. And because it's written into the bylaws and the power structure, we're putting ourselves in the best position to deliver on those results, because whoever gets in there and doesn't at least make progress on 3 of the 5 issues and can't explain why, they're out.
I love that. I love that. So that we the people party, it's a real third party resurgence that we need right now. Timing is everything, as the quote. I can't remember the quote either, but we know that there's nothing better than an idea. Time has come, and this is that time, and this is the idea. There's the website. People can go to that. It's pretty easy. It's just We the People National, WTPnational.com. And that's from here, all the different ways to get involved. You guys kind of go break everything down, how you can help. There's your ballot access. That's key. So you guys can see where you are located and how you can even get your party affiliation changed like immediately. If you're able to do that in your state, I recommend do it right now. I hope you guys are already non-affiliated. If you've already left the two-party system, that's awesome. I'm waiting for something just like this to affiliate again and have a real third-party movement. And then obviously, put your info down there and just be part of this this new movement. I love this conversation, guys. Anything else, Levi, that you want to throw in there that we maybe skipped over, or you want to just one last summary before we get going?
Yeah, the people and I appreciate you guys having me on here, because this is the people we need. We need a small group of people who care and who are informed about the issues and want to see change. We actually benefit greatly from them not knowing we exist until it's too late. We actually want to try to set up in as many states as we can, because they sue us a lot. As we saw in the last year, in the last 2024, they love just being litigious. So it's actually better for us to fly under the radars as long as possible. So we're actually hoping, because we have more than enough people. It could take us a couple of years just to call everybody. We have the people. We just need to train people, because they're new to this. It's complicated, so it takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but it's very empowering. And by the time we get these things set up, because we're focusing on the hidden races, we don't actually need coverage and we don't need donations. So we're set up so we don't need anything. We just need people like you guys who care to get involved. That's it. We don't need all that stuff. Because we're not lying to people, so we don't need tons of money to convince them that we're telling the truth. We don't need these things.
Wow.
We don't need tons of coverage. We need coverage from things like this for people who care, who are informed on the issues, who follow things up. Those are excellent leaders, and those leaders can empower their communities to get people to run. And we're even thinking about going to universities, because this is something that the other two parties can't do. And even the libertarians and stuff, we can go to them and say, we have 30,000 positions open on the ballot that's free. Do you want to run for us? Do you want to change the world today and not wait in line 30 years before you can even run for the lowest thing? Run for it today. Get involved today. Go into your school boards. Go into your communities. Go into your utility boards. Make life better for the people in your community today. Practice those values. And it doesn't matter if they think they're a socialist or right-wing guy or whatever. If you ask people what they want and then you do it, you're going to be a good politician. It doesn't matter what these big grand theories are. When it actually comes to serving the people and doing your job, that's our revolutionary concept, that politicians should do their job.
Yeah.
And look for what we pay them. And then that's it. We don't need a philosophy major. We don't need somebody reworking our entire imagining of the system and our morals. We just need people to do their job, to get in there and to deliver results. And I think that's how you make profound change that raises the quality of life of average Americans.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
And really quick, just to add one little cherry on top. We are an inclusionary party. We don't care what your ideology is. If you have considered yourself a green, for the last 20 years, we're not saying that you have to ditch the Green Party. You can still support, Green Party candidates and be involved, with We the People, because we're going to do our best to coordinate, where possible, especially when we don't have a candidate. And, it's all about finding common ground. So you don't have to denounce every other thing you've ever been a part of to join this. It's not like a Democrat where you get cast out, if you check a Republican box on the ballot. We're not saying that you have to leave any of these other movements, because we're focused on the common ground.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. And Levi, thanks for sharing everything and taking the time to come on the Homeless Left. And we'd love to have you back in the future. And hopefully, as we move forward into these next, like you said, critical years here that we're in, we support everything you're doing. And thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank
you.